Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, 5 Ways to Successfully Establish, Expand, and Elevate Your CAS Practice. First and foremost, we hope that you and your loved ones are happy, healthy, and staying safe. For today's webinar, Wolters Kluwer, Ray Barlow, Director of Outsource Operations, and Robin Magum, Client Accounting Services Manager, will discuss why more and more partners are turning to outsourcing to facilitate growth in their CAS practice. Before I hand it over to our presenters, a few housekeeping items to cover. Wolters Kluwer CCH is registered with NASBA as a sponsor of continuing professional education on the National Registry of CPE sponsors. As such, we are excited to offer 1 CPE credit for today's webinar. A total of 4 polls will be conducted throughout the presentation, and you'll need to participate in 3 of them in order to receive CPE credit. If you experience any technical difficulties when trying to submit your poll response, please make sure you let us know in the questions pane. Your certificate will be sent to the email used to register for the webinar within 5 business days after the session. If you do not receive your certificate, please email us at marketing@xcmsolutions.com. Please note, CPE is not available when viewing the on-demand version of this webinar. You will have the opportunity to submit questions by typing them into the questions pane of the control panel. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. If we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we'll be sure to follow up afterwards. You will also have the opportunity to complete a survey about the webinar, our content, learning objectives, and more at the end of the presentation. This survey will also be sent to you in a follow-up email. We appreciate you taking the time to participate in this survey so we can continue to deliver meaningful content in future presentations. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Ray Barlow and Robin Magum.
Thank you, Alyssa, and welcome everyone. My name is Ray Barlow. I'm the Director of Outsourcing Services here at Wolters Kluwer. I've been involved with the Expatex outsourcing services now for about 5 years or so. Before that, I worked with Intuit, as well as a previous stint here at Wolters Kluwer back in the initial from 2003 to 2012. So I've been involved in a lot of different things, and I'm joined today by Robin Mangum. Robin, would you introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Ray. My name is Robin Mangum, and I am the Client Accounting Services Manager for Wolters Kluwer. I'm a CPA with a background in industry, college instruction, and public accounting. I have enjoyed supervising and managing client accounting service departments for the last portion of my career. It's an exciting time to be involved in client accounting services, and it is something I sincerely enjoy. And I hope to help you understand more about establishing or expanding your own CAS practice today.
Thank you, Robin. So what I'd like to do first is cover the agenda. I mean, there's so many different topics that we can go over, but we've kind of categorized them into 4 broader categories. First, and obviously there's things that are impacting the profession today, and we want to talk about some of those things. I'd like to give an update as to where Client Accounting Services is today. There's more information that came out just a couple of days ago that I think is important to understand. And then we'll move into how to really establish, expand, and elevate your CAS practice. We've identified the 5 Ps, if you will. There's probably more things that you can do to elevate your practice, but we picked 5 for today's session. And the last thing is overcoming the staffing challenges. One of the 5 Ps is people. That's maybe the biggest challenge firms are having today. And we'll talk about how firms that work with us have been overcoming that challenge. So that's our agenda for today. Before I go any further, though, I would like to talk about where we came from and where the CAS outsourcing or remote staffing business came from. Last year, maybe a little over a year ago, Wolters Kluwer did acquire XCM Solutions. With that came our outsourcing business, the Expatex outsourcing business, which included our tax outsourcing and our client accounting services outsourcing, which we're calling remote staffing. So both of those parts of that business came over to Wolters Kluwer. I came over with them, and several of us came over as part of that acquisition as well. So you can see the suite of products that XCM had prior to the merger. All of these products are still in existence today and are part of the Wolters Kluwer family of products. So what's going on out there? It's kind of interesting when it comes to client accounting services. We've heard a lot of different things about what's been happening, and some of the things we've heard are interesting, and one of the things we've heard occasionally is we've dabbled a little bit in client accounting services. Perhaps we've We've borrowed from the tax department during off season to bring people in. We've had situations where that has to take place. And realistically, what we're going to talk about a little bit is the importance of people, the importance of having people dedicated 100% of their time to client accounting services, whether it's just getting the work done or going out there and providing the business development things that need to be done to really get the word out to your client base. So we hear that from time to time. What we're hearing the most of is, I can't find staff. Capacity. That seems to be the top three challenges accounting firms today are facing. It's an industry. It's not just a CPA industry issue. It's across the entire U.S.-based employment market. The Great Retirement or the Great Resignation of 2021. You've probably heard about that. They've looked at this. They've looked at where it's coming from. Some industries are impacted greatly by it, others are not. We definitely see the CPA space being impacted by this, and everyone is asking, how can we overcome the staffing shortage? We also hear we can sell more, but we can't deliver. Demand for client accounting services today is at an all-time high. We just got a report in from, I think it was from CPA.com, where firms are seeing 20% growth rate in their client accounting services businesses. That's up from 12% back in 2018. So it's accelerating, and it's accelerating for a number of reasons, but it's clear that it's not necessarily more clients, it's the fees are higher now. So firms are capitalizing on those advisory services and the fees that come along with it. So those are some of the things we've heard. Let's talk a little bit about the trends of 2021. It's really hard not to talk about COVID-19. It certainly is what I would call the ebb and flow of COVID-19. It just doesn't seem to go away. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. It's just there, and we have to deal with it. There's no way around it. And so really going back to the way things used to be may be a bit of a challenge. I know some firms are thinking that the remote model or the hybrid model, where some folks work from home a few days a week and some folks work in the office and vice versa, is probably here to stay for the foreseeable future. And who knows how long it's going to be like that as we look at things today. We do know that firms have accelerated their technology decisions, the cloud being the most important. If you're going to work from home and you're going to have a majority of your staff working from home, they have to really be cloud-based in order to get the work done appropriately and accelerate those. And this really has accelerated many of those decisions on cloud applications. It's also accelerated certain decisions around workflow. Very difficult not to have a web-based workflow product if you're trying to move work around in a remote environment. So that's certainly some of the trends that we've seen. The other trend is on staff. And one of the things that the remote working environment has done is it created even more challenges for people around recruiting, and competition for staff is now US based. Firms from New York City are reaching out to firms in Kansas City, Missouri, and offering positions remotely at a higher salary. And so this has kind of leveled the playing field for everybody to go out and recruit wherever they want for the staff that they need. So that has really added significant challenges to find and keep staff these days. Another thing, artificial intelligence, the old AI story. And I put up here, don't look behind that curtain from the little Wizard of Oz, for those who remember, because really what's behind the curtain is people. People manipulating the data, people verifying the data, people including the data. It's not quite there. It's not even close to being there yet. So you can't really think that AI is gonna solve all the problems. It's still people doing most of the work. And then the last thing I have is the multi-generational workforce is clearly shifting. One of the driving forces behind the Great Resignation are millennials. The age group between 30 and 40 are where the highest percentage of resignations has occurred, and those are all millennials. So what about millennials? I found out recently that the oldest millennial this year will turn 40, which is kind of surprising. For some reason, I guess I just missed that. but they will soon make up the majority of the workforce. And if they're making up the majority of the workforce, when they start resigning or not working, it has a huge impact on that workforce, and that's what we're seeing today. There is some other things happening. Millennial-owned businesses are starting to spend more and more money. Their power, their spending power is over 150 billion now. So they're going to be a force to reckon with now and into the future. The other thing is millennials are digital natives, and what I mean by that is not many of them are. You're going to find not many of them will be printing out documents to read them. Basically, they grew up in a world of a digital world, cell phone, smartphone, whatever it might be. That's what they're used to. That's what they're accustomed to. When you have a product that you're using internally, and if it doesn't have an app that they can put on their phone or their smartphone, they're probably going to be surprised. That's what they're looking for, and that's what the power of the millennials is about right now. The other thing is their priorities are really not that much different than the boomer generation or others. They still want to travel the world. They still want to earn high salaries, not much different. They want to buy and own their own homes. They want to have a positive impact on society, start a family. These are things that are not a surprise to anyone. So despite some of the things you've heard about the millennial generation, their goals and the things that they count as priorities are not much different than what we've seen in prior generations and probably in future generations as well. So we come to our first poll. Alyssa, it's all yours.
Great, thank you. I'm going to launch the first poll. And it is, what would you say is the #1 challenge managing your firm today? Recruiting and retaining talent, cybersecurity and data privacy, identifying opportunities for practice improvement and cost, raising profitability, or recruiting and retaining talent? Looks like we have a double there. We'll give everyone about 60 seconds to complete.
So when you add them up, we get the #1. So I don't know. This is very unique.
Just about 10 more seconds. I think we have a clear winner if we combine the A and E together.
Yes. And actually that's what we're seeing. This is not a surprise. Over 70% of you folks believe that recruiting and retention and retaining talent is the biggest problem. Recruiting is a challenge, right? But retaining those folks is even more of a challenge. The worst thing that can happen is you hire somebody, you get them up to speed, they're now ready to deliver profitable revenue for you, and they leave, and it's almost like you have to start over again. So clearly, that is the #1 challenge. We have been following the AFOT poll now for several years, probably over the past 3 to 4 years. We've been following this poll, and each year the poll kind of we've seen some movement in these areas. Whether it's recruiting, raising profitability, cybersecurity, whatever some of those things might be. We've seen the poll. It's always been very close. A couple of percentage points apart. But we ran this poll in 2020, and I guarantee you when this poll is run in 2021, it's even going to be more of a difference. But as you can see from 2020, there were signs already that things were changing, that recruiting and retention was becoming an issue. And you can see the differential now is 10 percentage points between the #1 challenge, recruiting and retention, and what's listed here as #2, raising profitability. So clearly, and we haven't seen I haven't seen the 21 poll yet, but I'm betting that it's going to be even a bigger differential as a result of what's happening in the marketplace today. So let's talk about client accounting services today. Really, when you think about the rise of client accounting services, it really did start with cloud technology, with the ability to use a general ledger system that's in the cloud, a term from years past called collaborative accounting, where you could actually be in your client's books. You can see what's happening. You don't have to be in their office. They can be anywhere in the country. You can see what's happening in their books. And you can collaboratively work on whatever you're seeing with them. And so it makes it much easier for you to update things on their behalf, makes it easier for you to see what they're doing and see what's happening. It also makes it easier for you to obtain new clients, where geography no longer is a limitation, because you don't have to worry about getting in your car and driving to their office to pick up their QuickBooks file and bring it back and load it up into your office servers to work on it. So clearly the first and foremost reason why the client accounting services on the rise was due to the cloud technology. The second piece, profitable revenue. So right now we're seeing, like I said before, less number of clients, much higher profitability, much higher revenue per client. And I think that has a lot to do with the value pricing model and the implementation of that model in so many places. A lot of firms are saying, yeah, I know we have to work on the hourly billing rate for our tax department, or maybe even in some other areas, but for client accounting services, we want to use a fixed fee model here, and we want to use the value pricing model to make it work. And that is definitely adding significant profitability as well. Third thing is client benefits. Clients have seen the benefits of CAS, and I have a slide of a couple from now that from a Bill.com survey showing that. There's an increased awareness and a focus on CAS, which has resulted in better specific KPIs and metrics for your customers, your clients to work from. So now there's a definite advantage that companies and clients are seeing to provide these kind of benefits. And the last thing is advisory services. It's clear that CAS has become a very strategic component now of the CPA firms offers. Maybe the pandemic accelerated it. It probably did. For your clients were coming to you for a lot more advice on a lot of different fronts, and I think that really accelerated the need for client accounting services in so many firms. But in the end, it has become strategic, and it is something that we see continuing to grow. I think one of the things that we see now is also the need to see what's happening, not ahead. CPA firms, CPAs, accounting profession, very good at looking in the rearview mirror and telling you what just happened. Flawless, very good at compliance work, all of those things that already happened. What clients are looking for now is more of a look forward. What's going to happen next? What's coming? What don't I see that you can see that's going to happen? What are some of the things that we have to do, whether it's risks or maybe opportunities? There's certainly regulations that they have to keep an eye on. And so there's so many things that clients are going to need help with, that just doing the compliance work isn't going to be enough for most small businesses. And as an example, this is a survey that Bill.com did of millennial business owners. Remember, we talked about millennial business owners being a force to be reckoned with a buying power now in excess of 150 billion. And look at the top two things they're interested in from their CPA firms. And I thought this was one of the most telling slides. They want bookkeeping support, and they want strategic insight. They want advisory help in those areas. So those were the top two. And these are the up and coming business owners, which means, in my opinion, that this requirement, this need will continue. This is not just a one-off thing. Right now, this will continue to grow. The need for bookkeeping work, the need for strategic insight for millennial business owners will continue into the future. And I did hear, I'm not sure where it came from now, but that there are some some people who believe this staffing issue could last 3 to 5 years. So you're gonna have to make decisions that are gonna help you get the work done, because this is what your clients are gonna want. So moving on to our next poll, Alyssa.
Great, thank you. Launching the second poll is, what experiences have you had with offshore outsourcing of tax and/or client accounting services? Currently leveraging remote staff for tax accounting work. Tried in the past, currently not using remote staff. Never tried but interested in learning more. Or we presently do not have a need for outsourced services. As a reminder, this is the second polling question. You'll need to complete 3 of 4 in order to receive your CPE from this webinar. We'll give everyone just about 15 more seconds to complete the second poll. Just about 10 more seconds. Looks like we're almost there. Some interesting results. All right, I'm going to close the poll and share the results. And I'll turn it back over to you, Ray.
Thank you. So the number one, 38% of you folks have never tried this, but are interested in learning more. That's a good number. 21% have tried in the past, but currently not, which means they might be interested again. And then 18% are currently leveraging staff, remote staffing for tax or accounting work. And 23% don't feel a need right now, but I'm sure they're here because they are concerned that one day they might have a need. And it's also always good to be informed. So we welcome everybody to our session. All right, so let's move into the 5 Ps, if you will. Establish, expand, and elevate your CAS practice. The biggest challenges sometimes we face when it comes to client accounting services, it's different. It's a little different. It's not most of the revenue coming into firms is in the tax area or the assurance area, audit area. So this is a little bit of a different area. So we picked the 5 areas we thought would be most impactful in helping to do those things, to really elevate and expand your CAS practice. There's probably more, and I'm sure there are more. I didn't even include a whole lot of information here on pricing, even though it's one of the 5 Ps. And I'll tell you why when we get there. There's nothing in here on necessarily on too much on tech stack, maybe a little bit on tech stack. In my mind, you can do a whole webinar on pricing, and you can do a whole webinar on tech stack, which we've done in the past. So we're trying to give more or less a broad view of some of the things that you might need to be aware of as you're expanding or beginning or just elevating your CAS practice. The first thing is positioning. We'll talk a little bit about positioning your product and your services to clients. The good news is most of the opportunities you have are already sitting there in your existing account base. These are folks that may not be leveraging any client accounting services work with you. Maybe you're doing a tax return for them at the end of the year. You may be doing a year-end cleanup and then doing the tax return. And there may be some opportunities to expand that relationship. We've seen that very frequently. So it's not necessary that you have to go out and find all new clients. You might just start with the clients that you already have. But we'll talk about positioning. We'll talk about your product and service mix. So what are you offering? How do you position the actual products that you offer? We'll talk about how a matrix of services can help clients make those decisions. I have one slide on pricing. We'll talk quickly on that. Again, you can dedicate an entire session to pricing, but I'll give you my opinion anyways on that. We'll talk about process, procedures, standardization, and platform. You need a service delivery platform. I don't care what it is. You need a service delivery platform for CAS. It's better if it's connected to the entire firm. So the audit department, the tax department, everybody can see what's going on with all the clients. So visibility is critical. Point solutions where you have one platform for CAS, one platform for tax, one platform for audit. All those are disparate systems, and being able to see everything that's going on in the firm is a critical piece. And then finally, we'll talk people. And we'll talk about what the challenges are with people, and we'll throw you at least one way we see firms leveraging our outsourcing services to solve the staffing problem. So we'll talk about that as well. So let's talk positioning. So as you think about positioning client accounting services, you really want to position that as consultative and a higher value. You want to focus on the difference that you're going to make for your clients and the fact that you can help them run their businesses better versus the transactions or just the reports produced. Now, I'm not saying you don't talk about that, but you're positioning the higher value service here in order to get their attention. Another thing is clearly state the benefits the client will derive, the solutions they'll receive, just versus just listing of a services or transactional work that you perform. You really want to position this as what the benefits are going to be to your client. You might want to avoid using terms like bookkeeping or write-up unless they specifically ask about that. I would not necessarily emphasize those services, but I'd be more focused on the advisory piece, what you can help them do for their business. And then, stress the integration of services, leverage all the internal relationships, within the CPA firm to really encourage referrals from other service lines, and make sure everyone is aware of the ideal target clients that you have for the accounting firm, so that this can really get off the ground pretty nicely, from a positioning standpoint. The second thing we talk about is, and we hear this oftentimes, firms are saying, well, you know what, we really don't know this industry that well, or we don't have expertise in all of these different industries. What's your recommendation? And we kind of, talk about specialization. And one of the things we coined a phrase a little while ago, the riches are in the niches. And so a jack of all trades, a master of none, that may not be the best approach. So really think about narrowing your focus to a specific clientele or a specific niche industry, whether it's dentistry or franchises. I can tell you right now, our top 3 industries that we work on in our remote staffing and CAS department are franchises, dentistry, and medical. Those seem to be the 3 that we find ourselves doing the most work for. And what happens when you start working in those areas and gain experience in those areas, you have a better understanding of the needs and the challenges and the opportunities within that area. And clients will actually look for your expertise in that area. We have some firms that are just doing dentistry around the entire country. That's all they do is dentists. That's their specialization. That's their niche. And you know what? Maybe they'll expand to a second one right now, but they've grown their CAS department just simply by focusing on one niche within a particular industry. So, I think you got to kind of look back and say, I have this question: where do the industry strengths of your firm lie today? And kind of look at that and determine where the best place for you to really expand your CAS practice in. This is a poll that Bill.com did, and that they kind of looked at this whole new outsourcing model, or I'm sorry, outsourced accounting model, relative to the conversations that accountants that you might have with your clients. And this is, instead of backward looking at results, it's more forward looking discussion about strategy. And the advice that accountants can provide is really having substantially positive impacts on clients. For example, in this particular survey, 28% of the clients who outsource accounting to their CPA firms and receive advice showed increased profits, as opposed to only 16% who did just have a traditional relationship with their accountant. So, I mean, there are other things, top reasons people are moving to the CAS area, your clients are moving. 80% of the time, it's to be more focused on their business. Most business people didn't get into business to do bookkeeping or accounting work. So the fact that they can focus more on what they got into business to do is a big part of the value that you can provide. And then there's more opportunity. They feel they're better prepared to make decisions relative to the business moving forward by having the information at their fingertips, the financial information there all the time, plus the advice of a CPA or an accounting professional who can provide that each and every day. And that's really some of the value that we're seeing, and why this is really growing at that 20% rate right now. Moving on to product and service mix. This is a little pyramid of kind of talking about, as you move up the pyramid in terms of the things that you can offer, you can see how it increases in value. So for example, at the very bottom, you'll see financial reporting, income tax prep, bill payment, maybe some payroll or sales tax work. That's kind of the lowest level on the chart here on the triangle. It's mostly compliance work. And so as you move up the chart or the triangle, you get into budgeting and CFO work, and eventually up to strategic planning. So you build a foundation, and then you add more and more opportunities or higher value services where you can see an increased revenue per client as a result of that. And that's kind of playing out in the market right now as firms are reaching out to their client base. They may already be doing some of this work on the L1 level of the pyramid, and now they're adding additional work in the budgeting, CFO. It could be virtual CFO work, could be strategic planning, whatever it might be. Those are all higher value services. And I pulled down this very cool Gartner value escalator, which kind of describes exactly what we were saying before. On the left, you have the value line. On the right, you have the difficulty line. The more difficult the work is, the higher value it becomes. And it's not necessarily, it's more about what happened. So this is the rearview mirror again, down at the bottom, what happened. So this is what they refer to as descriptive analytics. We can look back and see exactly what happened. Then you can also use diagnostic analytics to say, well, why did it happen? What caused this to happen? And so this is kind of the first two levels and the value associated with that. Then you move up to the third level and the fourth level, which are more what will happen. Now I'm forecasting out and I'm saying, okay, as a result of what I see in the marketplace with your company, whatever it might be, we think that these things will happen. And those are predictive analytics. But the real important value here is how can we make it happen? So if there's something that you want to happen, that you can drive, that you can put money into, that you can put a focus on, that prescriptive analytics is what really you get the most foresight on and the most opportunity. So you can really help your client drive their business in a particular direction. And that's the last piece of this escalator. I think it's a pretty cool chart. It really describes, in my opinion, the value that you can provide to clients. And then when you look at a mix, this is kind of a menu of services. It's always a good, it's a good strategy to offer options. So you might have a level 1 option, and you might say to someone, okay, here are the different levels that we offer. Pick certain things from each level. So maybe they want a little bit of income tax prep. Maybe they want a little bit of cash flow analysis, and maybe they want a little bit of budget analysis, and then they may want some strategic planning. So pick that out. And once you pull it all together, what's the fee going to be? So as you start looking at what options that they're interested in, you can build your pricing chart based on that. And this just gives you an example of a whole slew of different areas that you can focus on to build out your CAS service mix. And it's pretty easy to see and pretty easy to use. So the other thing is on value proposition. So as you're talking to these clients and trying to, deliver your value over anyone else or any other firm or any other, or just not doing it all, the value proposition is critical, because you want to talk to them about, you have the skill set to do the accounting work. That's what accounting firms do. That's what your focus in. You don't necessarily want the small business owner or someone like that to be doing bookkeeping or that type of work. So you want to focus on, you have the skill set, your team, your firm is very skilled in that area. You also have the ability to help them with their overall company performance. So you want to position this as not just, we're going to help you do your compliance work, we're going to help you in the performance improvement and of your company. Where do you want to go in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? What are your revenue targets? We're going to help you get there. We're also going to provide you with 24/7 access to the financial information you need to run the business. So that is something a lot of firms are doing. They're giving them access to the financials they need to run their business, to make the decisions all the time. And then the last thing is kind of the small business owner in terms of giving them the right amount of time in their business, on their business, and outside their business. There's a book called Unleash Your Leader, How to Win in Business. It talks about the way you spend your time with your business. And there are 3 circles. There's working in your business, working on your business, or working outside your business. So working in your business is just like what it sounds. You're doing the work needed to create the revenue for the business. So in this case, it might be you're doing the bookkeeping work or the accounting work to keep your clients moving forward, and you're spending all your time doing that kind of work. And so you're really working in your business. And then working on your business is things like, training your staff, or maybe looking for new clients, and overall managing the business. And then working outside your business is really more about the future. It's long term, ways to improve your client offerings, being more strategic, and even professional development. So how much time are you spending in, on, and outside your business? If you're spending 100% of your time in your business, you need help. You're going to need some help, because the actual magic ratio from this book is 30% of your time in your business, 50% of your time on your business, and 20% of your time outside your business, looking for ways for it to grow. And I think that's a value proposition you can make to firms by saying, hey, we'll try to alleviate some of the times you're spending in your business and give you more time to work on your business and outside your business. So I said I had one slide on pricing, and again, there are people out there who specialize in doing webinars and seminars on pricing alone. My take on this is hourly billing rates just don't work in CAS. We want your firms to be able to position the fixed fee pricing so your clients feel comfortable reaching out to you, and reaching out to you in order to expand that relationship. The pricing in that case would not be based on hourly, but it would be based on what you perceive as the value to the customer of or your client of what you're delivering. So it's more or less that fixed fee or value-based pricing is preferred in the world of CAS. And we know it's difficult to move the entire firm. What's nice is that we're seeing a lot of firms separate the billing in CAS from the rest of the organization or the firm, so that they have maybe two different billing models, but they both work well. And so I would say that in terms of pricing, there's a lot more you can. There's a lot of questions you might have. How do you set the pricing? What about geographic areas? What about certain fees? There's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of people out there who can help you build out your pricing model for your CAS department. Process and standardization. I mentioned earlier that you're going to need a service delivery platform, and you need a service delivery platform that meets the needs of your clients. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means. For example, you may have a QuickBooks. You may use QuickBooks for your small businesses. Maybe you're going to use Sage Intacct for the larger businesses. You may use Bill.com for bill pay. You may have, just CCH Access Document for document management, and you may use XCM for workflow. What I mentioned before is that integrated platform, so that it covers across all of the firm and not just one piece of the firm. That's what we see as one of the more integrated. When you integrate everything, you have visibility into everything, and that's why we believe in the XCM workflow solution. We use it in our CAS department, and it gives us that visibility that we need to really hit strong marks on service delivery. When you look at the current process, procedures, and standardization, we look at things like monthly checklists on a monthly close, daily tasks, things that all of the processes are documented, and the procedures are documented, and they're embedded into XCM so they can be repeatable. We try to standardize those tasks so no matter what or who is doing the task, it's easily done, and we know what steps to follow. And then we also we believe that recurring tasks, which is this example here to the right, is really table stakes in CAS. If you don't have the ability to set up recurring tasks, you're always going to run the risk of missing something. And that's what we do here. You can establish a set of recurring tasks that occur monthly, weekly, even daily, so that you don't miss anything. And so these are a couple of the procedures and standardization that we leverage with our solution. Monthly close. This is an example of a monthly close. These are all the steps that you would take to prepare a monthly close. And you can see on the left is the exact checklist item description. To the right is the folks that are associated to that task. It can be different people. So you could have 5 or 6 different people working on this monthly close, these tasks or these steps in the monthly close. And then ultimately the person who assigned them all out would be able to see when each one of them is done. So literally as a person who was owning a client monthly close, you can parse out the work to multiple people in your department. And as each piece of this is done, you will get updated on this list to say it is done. And then once they're all done, you can move forward with the monthly close. Recurring tasks that I mentioned before, one of the nice things about recurring tasks is it's really a great way to set it and forget it, so to speak. So it reduces the administrative burden of creating those tasks, and it mitigates the risk of forgetting, like I said before. So to pull it all together, you might have an onboarding checklist, which has an item to create recurring task patterns for each service level the client signs up for. That way, you are set up for success at the beginning of the engagement. The recurring tasks can even get set up to push to the right person at the right time and pull all of the relevant data with it, such as permanent points containing client-specific instructions or nuances or whatever that might be. And you can see that down here in the Add Issues and Points section. So this is kind of that one source of information, all of it being housed here. You can set it up by client, you can set it up by task. It's all pretty significant in terms of the ability to really ensure that the service delivery is done accurately and on time. And at this point, I am going to turn this presentation over to Robin. Robin, it's all yours.
Thanks, Ray. So let's talk about staffing our CAS practice. Next slide, please. So as you heard Ray address earlier, most successful CAS departments do not share staff from other departments. So CAS staff needs to have time to focus on the needs of their clients. They need to develop expertise in things that pertain to the data generated by the department, such as CFO service offerings and reporting services. A CAS department is a year-round business, so it usually doesn't work well to shift employees between a CAS and a tax department. You need good staff, and we have already covered that finding staff is an issue in today's landscape. It's just more difficult right now to recruit, hire, and retain staff. Also, you'll need a staff that can handle the current technology landscape. Let's go to the next slide. So in addition to your staff, you need good technology. And technology, that front has exploded. So many third-party apps and platforms. Finding the right fit and then training your staff on those apps is a vital piece of your practice. So on the screen are just a sample of the top apps available for the various necessary processes that are typical for a CAS practice. As you can see, there are many to choose from. So how does one choose? You will choose based on the application, how well it fits the goal of your practice. Once you choose, then you have to train your staff. So you have to develop an education plan. In order to operate smoothly on all of the software and apps, your staff will need to build their expertise via training and education programs. So you will need to build a structure for your department. Will you use incentives to motivate your employees to gain higher levels of training? Will you choose certain staff to become the subject matter expert on a particular subject or app? Or do you want everyone cross-trained? So those are the kinds of things that you'll need to decide and plan. I personally have experienced these questions and dilemmas as I have thought through the best way to train and equip CAS staff. So I definitely understand the challenges there. Next slide. So let's talk about some of the issues that might hinder a successful CAS practice. Your team may be resistant to change. They may fear a new model and how it will affect them. Sometimes there's a lack of understanding of the purpose or what your goals are or how you're planning to achieve success or to make the change. As I already addressed, the landscape continues to evolve with all of the different tech platforms available, which requires research and understanding and training. And these are not always easy to tackle for a busy staff. Your existing staff may be bogged down so much already in data entry or day-to-day tasks that they really just don't have time to focus on the verticals from a business advisory standpoint. They don't have time to focus and train on those higher level deliverables. Or you may just have a lack of resources, or you may be short-staffed. So how do we overcome the staffing challenges? One aspect of the challenges of a CAS practice that we can help you with is the staffing piece. Our Expatax service fits very nicely with a firm's client accounting services, business, and purpose. Our remote staff are extensions of your staff. They're hired by us, trained by us, supported and managed by us, and then they're assigned to your firm. And they become an extension of your staff as you work with your same team week after week. I see this in action as I sit on the calls between our existing firms and our outsourcing teams. It's really exciting to me to see how uniquely each firm folds their team into a system that works for them and their individual CAS practice. Next slide for me. So speaking of our team, we do recruit skilled accounting professionals. The same person works on your project day in and day out, just as if you hired an additional staff person. So we don't have a pool approach where someone is pulled in depending on availability. This is a full-time equivalent preparer that consistently works on your work, and this provides you continuity and enables them to really get to know your client work. We have a dedicated training team, and each preparer completes a rigorous training curriculum. The preparer will have anywhere from 1 to 3 years of experience before they even come to us. Every preparer has their work reviewed by a supervisor who has 5 to 7 years of experience, and those supervisors are promoted from within, so they really know our process as well. The supervisors review the work to make sure the instructions are understood and completed before the work goes back to your firm. And at Expatax, we use the XEM workflow platform as the tech-enabled platform. And with that, we're allowed to define and design and execute transaction processes for your firm, specifically that flow easily for your firm to our team and then back to you. And we've been refining those processes since 2002. So given that amount of time and transactions, we have been able to design a best practice playbook. And that's what we use to get firms up and running with our team. Competency, I'm sure, is very important to you. So I want to discuss the qualifications of our team really quickly. Our preparers are screened by their academic scores before their applications are accepted. We do perform aptitude testing, multiple interviews. We do full background checks before we hire for our team. Once hired, we take the preparer through classroom, hands-on case simulation trainings to give them an opportunity to work through what they're learning. We continue with certifications at each training level, and also we continue with refresher training each year. And just like in your office, there's just a skill that comes along with doing the work on a routine basis. Our team learns your client work, and over time, this does increase our efficiency in the process. So I'm sure for any of you who haven't seen this process, it might be difficult to imagine how it works practically speaking. So I hope this slide will explain it better. So your firm signs a new CAS client. You'll obtain access to their general ledger system, for example, like QuickBooks Online. You would then set up bank and credit card feeds to download, and you would gain access to any source documentations you would need, like your bank statements, that kind of thing. Same as if you were working with a remote employee from your own firm. Once you have access to your source documents, you would use the XEM platform to move a task to our Expatax team, and those tasks all get set up in the implementation process. Our team will then see the task populate to them, and the supervisor assigns the work to your preparer in Expatax, and the work follows our prep and review cycle and then is sent back to you. At this point, there might be open questions, clarifications, things that are needed to complete the task. So those questions are asked and answered at this point, and the task is then marked as complete. And then your firm takes it from there, you review it, and then you can get the promised deliverables to your client. As you can see, we use a number of accounting applications, QuickBooks Online, Xero, Sage Intacct, and Bill.com, to name just a few. So I hope this has helped give you a quick picture of how we structure our outsourcing. The XCM platform is a terrific tool that does allow the movement of work to become streamlined and routine really quickly. So this is a slide of just some of the types of work that we do. Weekly and monthly bookkeeping tasks. We process bank feeds, enter transactions, deposits, payroll, reconciliations. We do AP and AR. We create invoices, purchase orders, receive payments. We do closing of the books for period end, journal entry, sales tax report, and payroll tax report. We can do, as you can see, a number of things. We can do year-end procedures, 1099s, depreciation schedules, things like that. And we can also offer special projects for you. So there might be a time where you have, say, a new client and you need to do a cleanup project, or you might have a project that has a lot of data entry that you need done. So we can scale up and help you with those projects when they come on board occasionally. Or we can always do any task really, or any process that you can explain to us and give us steps. We can do that for you. The only thing we do not do is move money. And then we do not talk directly to your clients because we want you to keep and hold those relationships yourselves. So at this point, we do have another polling question, so I'm going to hand it back to Alyssa.
Great, thank you, Robin. I'm going to launch the last polling question, and it is, would you like to learn more about our Expatax client accounting services outsourcing?
No. It's a different one, Alyssa.
Oh, hold on, sorry. This one. I apologize. What is your biggest concern about utilizing offshore remote staffing services? Employee staff perception, client perception, security of client data, quality of work, or loss of control? This is the third of the 4 polling questions. We'll give everyone about 15 seconds to complete this third polling question. Just about 10 more seconds, and we'll share the results. All right, I'm going to close the poll and share the results.
Okay,
and turn
so
back to you, Robin.
Yes, thank you. Quality of work is a concern there. Client perception, loss of control, and then security at 13%. So all of those things, certainly understandable. I will say you always own the work when it comes to what we do. It doesn't leave you, and I'm actually going to cover that in a moment. Regarding security, we are SOC 2 certified, so we can always provide that if you need it. I can confidently report that our team is well trained, and I see the results every day of their great results, and I hear back from the firms themselves, and they're very well satisfied. So we can talk about that hopefully before the end. So let's now talk about implementation. How do we get your firm set up for outsourcing? During implementation, our IT team assists in setting up the remote access we need to complete the work for your firm, much like you would if you had a remote staff person. Then we get more granular with your firm to determine the processes you need to service your particular client. So we get those tasks set up in our XCM platform, and they're ready to go when we start. And just a word about XCM task. Using our platform gives your firm visibility into the task at all times. So by looking into the XCM platform, and you can find any task in question, you'll see who has the task, what stage it is in, what the due date is, and if there are any points or open questions regarding the task. So this gives you control over your client work at all times. The work is never separated from you. You can always follow what is happening. After we set up the task for your firm, we then set up training with your Expatax remote team, so you can show them the task and processes you're sending to them. We like to maybe pick a couple for you to show them, and this is a chance for you to walk through the process with your Expatax team. We also help to train your firm on the XCM solutions and how to communicate with the Expatax team to get the most out of the outsourcing service. So we don't leave you to do this alone. We come alongside and guide you through this process. And then once we walk through those implementation steps, it's time to go live and get to work. So to offer the best quality possible, we then set up recurring calls with your firm, and we can talk through the task at that time. We get feedback, and we ask, are we understanding the instructions? We ask for feedback on the task so that we can catch any changes we need to make or get clarification. You have the ability during those times to give more training or to further explain a project or a task. I find that once firms are comfortable with the assigned task and how this process works, they begin to look for new tasks to send to their team, and it becomes sort of a seamless working process at that time. As you continue to work together, your Expatax team will make improvement notes and update their processes constantly based on the feedback given to them by your firm in those calls, or even as you're working with them in XCM, they always make notes for themselves to keep up. And at this point, you really begin to see the staff as an extension of your team. And as always, as the Client Accounting Services Manager, I'm here for support. I'm available to assist with questions or concerns during the entire process. When you sign up for your FTE, you really do get a whole team of people to support you and to work to make it a successful service. I have a great deal of respect for our team, and I find that after working with their individual teams from Expatax, firms definitely develop that same respect and appreciation, and I hear that on a weekly basis from them. So I thank you for your time today, and as always, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And now, Alyssa, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you. We're going to do the final polling question, and it is, would you like to learn more about Expatax CAS outsourcing? If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the questions pane of the control panel. At this time, I did want to make a note. I know there's been a few people who have been asking if slides will be available. Yes, please feel free to email marketing@xcmsolutions.com, and I'd be happy to provide you with a copy of today's presentation. And it looks like there was actually a question related to pricing or cost. If you could just elaborate a little bit more on the cost of having CAS outsourcing and having an
Sure.
FTE.
Yeah, so we price it basically by the month. So one full-time equivalent, or FTE, is priced at $2,300 a month, and that's a month-to-month bill that we send out. So there's some level of there's a support fee of $950, and then depending on how many licenses of XCM workflow, the typical price for one license is $525 a year. So those are the traditional prices, and then our implementation it varies based on whether you're an XCM workflow customer or not, but we can provide more information on implementation fees as well.
Great, and that actually leads into another question. Can you use XCM workflow without using Expatax?
Yes, you can. XCM workflow is a product that's both for internal use in a firm and for our use in our outsourcing business. So it can be used either way. So.
Perfect. And again, just to reiterate the email, if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, please email marketing@xcmsolutions.com. This concludes our presentation. I'd like to turn it back over to Ray and Robin for closing remarks.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you have any additional questions for us, either email Robin or myself or reach out to your sales rep. We'd be happy to help you. Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thanks for your time, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.